And again, the last thing I want to say, immigrants built this country, literally. Actually, so this is for them, for all children of immigrants.
Shaboozey's Grammy acceptance speech had a lot of people talking. He dedicated his Grammy Award to immigrants and children of immigrants, stating that immigrants built the country. Obviously, this received a lot of pushback, especially from African Americans. Both sides are reacting to real historical truths, but just talking past each other. Enslaved African Americans built the foundation of the U.S., the economic foundation that is. From 1619 to 1865, enslaved Africans and their descendants built plantations, ports, railways, as well as early cities, produced cotton, tobacco, etc. These were foundational. But also, immigrants absolutely helped to build and expand America. Large-scale immigration, whether that be Irish, Italian, Jewish, African, Caribbean, would power industrialization, urban infrastructure, agricultural, and even later tech. Many immigrants would face exploitation, racism, and even violence. The main difference is that they were legally human beings and not property. So yes, immigrants built America can flatten history and can minimize the unique brutality that happened during chattel slavery. All in all, enslaved Black Americans built the economic foundation of the U.S., while immigrants later built, expanded, and sustained the nation across several generations. Both are true and are not interchangeable experiences, and I think that Shaboozey was speaking specifically to his experience, but obviously it ended up causing a lot of rift.
And woke Black Americans are already upset. They claim his statement that immigrants built this country is completely wrong. The George Washington Bridge, built by a Swiss immigrant. The Brooklyn Bridge, built by a German immigrant. America wasn't built by one group. It was built by the collective blood, sweat, and sacrifice of many indigenous communities, enslaved Africans, immigrants, and everyday citizens who all shaped this country's backbone. Yes, Black Americans made monumental contributions. Black Americans did not build America alone. Their impact is undeniable. But saying we built this country erases others who also paid the price of progress. The truth is, America was built by everyone. Saying Black Americans built this country alone, that is just straight up wrong.
I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial for some people in the Black community. And before I say this, I am Black and I was born in America. However, both my parents are Haitian from Haiti. So no, I'm not a Black American in whatever sense that y'all want to make it up. But I am Black in America, so I think that's Black and American enough. But irregardless, I don't think what Shaboozey said was as problematic as people are making it. Yes, he said immigrants built America, and that isn't an incorrect statement. Two things can be true at the same time. Slaves were the initial foundation of America. I would argue to say even further back, Native Americans were, if you go way, way back, or indigenous people were, if you're going back to the original spot, the original foundation of America. Slaves industrialized America at a certain period, correct. And then immigrants industrialized America again. And it just continues to keep, just because something was initially started, right? Building isn't a finished concept. When you're building something, a country's never going to be finished building. So in reality, what Shaboozey said, it wasn't like a diss to Black Americans whose ancestors were slaves. And if you think about the timing in which he's saying it, where immigrants, Black Americans, POCs are all being subject to oppression at the hands of white Americans, not all white Americans, but a certain group, a subset group of white Americans, I think it was more so him trying to make a message of unity rather than dividing people even further.
Everyone in the United States of America is an immigrant. I don't know why most of you are blasting Shaboozey because he dedicated his Grammy to immigrants. I don't understand. Every one of you there, I don't care how long you've dwelled in the United States, 400 years, 1,000 years, everyone there is an immigrant. Do you know one way to know that a certain group of people or people who live in a certain place is an immigrant? Is the food. The Latinos have their food, the Puerto Ricans have their food, the people that they actually call Americans have their food, Nigerians have their food, the Indians have their food, the Chinese have their food. There are certain races that make up America. And this shows that people actually migrated from a certain place. America, United States itself is colonized by the UK, Great Britain, and some people, some part of Netherlands. These people colonized United States. So I don't see why most of you badge and try to. So someone said you should have dedicated the song to America first. Really?
There's a conversation about how Black Americans built the foundation, but to only and solely say that Black Americans built the foundation of this country is erasing the history of the natives here and the Mexicans. Native Americans here were, I know in history, were taught like they were some savages, and no, there was civilization here. They had systems of agriculture, they had systems of trade. They knew about this land long before the white man did. The white man came, displaced them. I know that word, we use it lightly. They murdered, enslaved, beat, tortured these people, and the same happened with the Mexicans. Mexicans are considered immigrants in this country, but the Southwest was owned by Mexico, and there was railroads, there was mining, there was cities, there were ranching. Before the white man knew what a cowboy was, Mexico had already had that down packed.
America was built by immigrants. We hear this all the time, but is that really true? Look, I'm a legal immigrant, but I've seen such a shift in the mentality of my fellow immigrants, especially in the last 25 years. When we first got here, the focus was assimilation, because we moved here for a reason, right? We left our home, our family, our friends, we left everything that we knew so that we could have a better life here. And that's because America could give us opportunities that our country of origin just couldn't. So our allegiance should be to this country, right? Because we've chosen it. We should want this country to succeed, and we should work for this country's survival and betterment. Somehow we went from that perspective to my loyalty will always be with my country of origin. I shouldn't have to change, and I shouldn't have to learn the local language, and I should not have to assimilate. America was built by immigrants. America was built by people who took immense risks of leaving everything behind, leaving civilization behind, to brave dangerous seas, to overcome famine, disease, and to face the great unknown, to create something out of nothing. And more recently, to take what already existed and make it better. America has been built by pioneers, not by people who come here to fly the flag of their country of origin and live off of benefits.
The response to Shaboozey's Grammy acceptance speech shows that we're living in a low-trust society. Unfortunately, people are assuming erasure or negative intent because he chose to highlight and uplift immigrants. He himself is an immigrant himself. When you live in a low-trust society, people assume negative intent. They assume that you're trying to not give them where credit is due or giving yourself more credit than is due. And that's what we're seeing with Shaboozey in the Grammy acceptance speech, is that people see Shaboozey and others like him, especially in America, as an outgroup. And the outgroup for many Americans are immigrants. And immigrants in a lot of different ways are under attack from a lot of different forces, from a lot of different ways. So I do believe that we're going to continue seeing people assume negative intent and erasure from people they deem part of an outgroup and not part of their in-group. And that's going to unfortunately negatively impact many immigrants.
So I just came across a video from a Nigerian American man who was explaining how Shaboozey's speech at the Grammys, talking about how immigrants built America, how Black Americans are taking it out of context because there's so much distrust in our community and in our country. Me, as a Black American, I'm taking that as him saying, you guys just have so much trust issues because that's not what he meant. Like, you guys just need to relax. Unfortunately, you guys are responding to his speech this way because the climate that this country is in. Again, to me, this is me personally, as a Black American, I am offended by Shaboozey's statement and offended by this man's response to Black Americans' response. I want to address like a couple of things regarding Shaboozey's speech. I think it is once again so disrespectful and belittling for anyone to comment on Black Americans' response to Shaboozey's statement stating that immigrants built this country, because it is wrong. And when we Black Americans point that out, when we say that is not true, these are the facts, the response to us is like, ugh, again, you guys always have to center yourselves. This isn't the time to be doing this. Shut up. So when is the time? Because it seems that anytime we try to correct people on American history, on Black history, we're told to be quiet.
I'm not gonna lie, as an immigrant, I see why a lot of Black Americans don't care about whatever's going on when it comes to immigration, and really don't have too many nice things particularly to say when it comes to immigrants. Because what do you mean immigrants built this country? Do you know at a particular time in history that the U.S. supplied 75% of the world's cotton? And we know where the cotton came from. It came from slavery. If it wasn't for slavery, you think the U.S. would have been able to win the war against the English? You think they would have had the economic power to do so? Do you know even the states that got rid of slavery still benefited off of slavery? What do you mean immigrants built this country? What do you mean? Immigrants did not build this country, bro. And I really see the disrespect a lot of Black Americans be feeling when immigrants come to this country and forget, like, how this country came to be. Like, who's the reason, you're able to do all of these things when you come to this country? And you gonna come to this country and say immigrants built this country. Lord have mercy.
See, y'all let all these people say the N-word now. It's no respect on the Black American. They trying to simply just erase us. They gonna act like it went from slavery to African American to the immigrant. First, let me tell you the difference between African Americans and Black Americans, in my opinion, at least. Let's just take that first ship that came from Africa, right? Those were Africans, and then they procreated with maybe other slaves or the slave masters and had African Americans. Now, once those African Americans procreated with other slaves or slave masters, they then had what is known as the Black American. Those were the first group of people that were, I don't want to say not connected to Africa, but just to make the point, that's what I'll say. These are people that was born in America that was not speaking African languages. They didn't know any African dances, any African culture at all, because it was getting beat out of them by the slave master. Well, actually, it got beat out of their parents. And then when their parents had them, they was, like, we on this whole American thing now. Ain't no more Africa. Thus was born the Black American. I don't care if you Black and you from Nigeria, if you Black and you from Dominican Republic, if you Black and you Puerto Rican. No. If none of your lineage derived from American chattel slavery, you shouldn't be saying the N-word. Now you got a immigrant of somewhere. I think Shaboozey might be Nigerian, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, get in the comments and let me know where he's from. He on national television talking about immigrants built America. What? First of all, why would immigrants be coming to America if America wasn't already built up? Huh? America was built by slaves. For the free, might I add. So what you're not going to do is sit here and erase that. Not to mention, this is coming from the same man who let these white people call him Shaboozey because they could not pronounce his ethnic name. They were making fun of him by saying, we'll just call you Shaboozey. And now he took that, and that's his actual stage name for millions of people around the world to call him. His legacy is going to be based off of white people not being able to pronounce his ethnic name and him not being brave enough to correct them. But he's brave enough to get on national TV and say that immigrants built America. But just remember, before ICE was raining down on y'all parade,
everybody wanted to be white. Y'all wanted to be in the proximity of whiteness. And when in return you got nothing, now it's immigrant this and immigrant that. And now that Donald Trump is it's kicking all of y'all out of the country. Now the country was built off the back of immigrants. Sister, please.
Shaboozey's sentiment last night at the Grammys is exactly why the immigration stance of black people currently in the environment is exactly what it is. I have no problem with y'all saying immigrants built this country. Cool, that's fine. But if immigrants build this country, you should understand why black people are allowing immigrants of this country to deal with their immigration issue and their current exchange with the agency of ICE of America. Y'all built that. If you built this country, that's your agency. Those are your policies. Those are you deal with that. Black people ain't got nothing to do with that. We ain't built this country. That has nothing to do with us. We're minding our business. So take that how you will, but don't expect us to involve in things when this country's history has nothing to do with us. We're not a part of it. Thank you very much.
When y'all say that ignorant shit like immigrants built this country, I just be questioning, how the fuck do y'all think this country became what it was to the point where your grandparents or your great-grandparents wanted to come here and contribute to it? Because that's all they did, if anything. They contributed to certain things, but they did not build this country. The country that you are living in today, the United States of America as you know it, the reason why it exists in the state that it is off the exploitation and the blood, sweat, and tears of black American people. Now, I get why people think they're the reason why the country is running, because when black people go outside in their own neighborhoods, you got this ethnicity owning this business, this one owning that one. All of our money is going into the next motherfucker pocket so they can take it back to their neighborhood and their country, circulate that motherfucking money, and build their motherfucking economy up. That's why you think that. But really, they placed here as a buffer class to keep your black ass economically distraught. But that's another conversation I'll touch on for another day. I'm going to just touch on two industries that people like to say, oh, if it wasn't for immigrants, this industry would be dead. Y'all like to say that about the agricultural industry, and y'all like to say that about blue-collar jobs. Now, my theory about the whole blue-collar industry is whenever they passed that Immigration Act in the 60s, that is also the same time that they started taking trade programs at a high school. Now, our grandparents and great-grandparents used to take these trade courses and use those skill sets to go and have a career and start their own businesses after high school. They weren't worried about going to no fucking college. And they were able to take care of their whole fucking family. Like Julius off Everybody Hates Chris on that one episode when Julius went outside to go to work and all the men on the block had on their fucking blue-collar work gear. Yes, that is an industry that by and large we took over, but as they slowly start taking these trades out of the school, I feel like that's when they start paying these immigrants under the table to do the same work that we've been doing. We are the original carpenters. We are the original welders. Any blue-collar trade that you can name, we are the fucking originators. And it's the same thing for agriculture. Like, my grandfather tells me stories all the time about how him, his siblings, and his cousins, because my great-grandfather, he had like 20-some kids. Either way it go, he used to do stuff like pick cherries at cherry orchards. He used to get like 50 cents a bucket or something like that. Motherfuckers used to harvest corn in their motherfucking backyard. He grew up around pigs and chickens. These are people that are alive right now. My granddaddy's only 73 years old, okay? So black people literally just stopped tending to the land by and large in, like, I say like the 70s. Like, now when you think of a nigga in the field, you think of slavery. When whole town, we still was doing this shit up until the timeline makes sense to me. So my theory about these motherfuckers slowly but surely taking out agricultural courses and fucking trades out the motherfucking classroom, and then all of a sudden you got these motherfuckers ready to come over here and do it for cheap. The fuck you think we finna be slaves again? Because that's basically what you would be asking us to do, is be sharecroppers and slaves, getting paid shit to do all this fucking hard work in the fucking fields. And that's just not what the fuck we was doing. So yeah, we do need to get back in the land. We will get back to the land. Bitch, I can't wait till I get my motherfucking land. And don't get me started on the infrastructure. The bullshit ass infrastructure. We built shit to last. Like, we got buildings up that's been up for like centuries. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all might have to blow that bitch up with intention for that bitch to come down. Houses we built centuries ago still up. Like, what are you talking about? Like, y'all can't compare with these 10-minute neighborhoods y'all be building with these bullshit ass raw materials. Never in the history of the game. Ever. Because you compare. If anybody wanted to know how to tend to this fucking land, they had to ask who? Oh, okay. Exactly. Couldn't ask the white people. Because they're in the homestead at what? They also had to go get degrees on how to tend to their land. And if they was able to successfully do so, what? The land was theirs, right? These are the same people y'all give credit for building and cultivating this fucking land. Like, y'all got us fucked up, Joe. Don't fucking play with us during no fucking Black History Month, bro. And fuck Shaboozey with them fake ass wigs.
Shaboozey, my African brother, what the fuck are you talking about? We have Asians being able to come here somewhat during like the mid-19th century, the gold rush and whatnot. Then we also have the Asian Exclusionary Act, which made life pretty difficult for them. And then we have the Mexican-American War. Not immigration of Hispanic people, more like absorption under duress. I'm pretty sure it wasn't until the 1960s that our African asses started making our way over here. Willingly. And why were we able to start immigrating to the United States? Because of civil rights. The civil rights movement. Black Americans. The first slaves brought to the Americas, early 16th century. Black Americans built this country, okay? No matter how tenuous you feel our status in this land might be right now in 2026, that doesn't change. That Black Americans built this country. Not Nigerian Americans, not Ethiopian Americans. Black Americans. I couldn't have gone up there and said, thanks, mate. And on a separate note, immigrants make this nation great. As an Ethiopian American, I find it like insulting. Why would we have to co-opt your shit? We all have enough impressive shit to go around. I feel protective over your shit because we are cousins. But that's not my shit.
I think the problem with saying immigrants built this country is it's not acknowledging what Black Americans went through in this country. And that's the same thing that repeatedly is done, that keeps being done, is not giving credit to enslaved Black people. Black people did not, the enslaved Black people at least, did not come over here willingly. And we have to acknowledge that. And they built this country before anybody else was even able to come over here. So yes, Black Americans have the right to be annoyed, irritated, take offense to people saying immigrants built this country, because Black people literally had to give their lives, their kids, their families had to make sacrifices in order for you to even come over here and do what y'all did. That is also not trying to downplay anything that immigrants have come over here and done. Like, it's just giving credit where it's due. And it's just been the biggest issue for so freaking long that Black Americans have not been given. I mean, even when it was put in law that Black Americans get this, never received 40 acres and a mule, never received reparations, never received anything due to the suffering of Black Americans in this country. And then we still can't even get the credit for history.